Okay, I'm going to do a quick monochromatic painting using Kevin's sketch of himself, and he decided to draw in the planar lines. So I'm just going to start out by mixing. He wanted to do green, so I'm going to mix a green quickly that I can start with. And he and I talked briefly about how would you start. And I mentioned that I might build a background first, um, and that could be done by doing a complementary color background, which would mean I would need red and orange, and I don't have all that. So instead, I'm going to create like a deep green, sort of deep green black mossy color. So I don't know if you can see what I'm mixing here. I'll bring this up. I'm using palette paper, and I'm using acrylics, which I virtually never paint with. I also don't have any black paint because I think I've mentioned to you all I don't like to use it. I create my own black using a burnt umber and ultramarine blue. And rather than do that, because that's not going to be a good complement to what we're doing with this green, I'm just going to go ahead and get this filled in and do sort of a, I think, one thing I wanted to mention is I have two containers of water, one for my dark and one for my light, and I wash my brush in the proper water container based on what color I'm painting with, so that I don't mix my clean water with my dirty water. Looks like I'm going to need a lot more paint to get this thing covered, so I'm mixing more paint. And this is going to take a few minutes, so you can set the speed up higher since I'm going to upload this to YouTube, so you are able to change the speed and listen to me in fast motion and just watch it if that's what you would prefer. So the idea is just to get this. I'm going to go ahead and start with the background. He and I talked about how, you can actually do, you can do a gray and cover the whole painting in a gray, and chiaroscuro painting is what that's called. That's actually how I typically start a painting, is I'll paint the entire canvas sort of a gray color. I'm out of my green again. I'm going to need a lot more paint than I thought. Get a little black here. I ended up having to use a gouache black because I didn't have an acrylic black. Okay, so I'm going to build up. Having to use a lot of water to get this down. And I think what I'm going to do is sort of mix a lighter tone as I come down. Blend that in. You see how quickly I'm trying to work so that I don't have my paints dry out. But a wonderful trick is to have a little tiny bottle. This is an old hairspray bottle, and spray it to keep it wet as you move through. And that way you don't have your paint drying out on you. So don't be too concerned about the edges and the details yet. The whole idea is to get your paint down. I'm even going to spray my paints to keep them moist and moving fluidly on the paper. Oh boy, I need a lot more paint here. And you notice I'm mixing my green from an ultramarine and cadmium yellow, and just getting all this down. And bringing in some white here to lighten up the base and soften the tone. So we're going to go from shade up in the top down to a lighter tone in the base. I don't want it so yellow. I want to make it more chalky. So I'm just painting that in. I think you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so we basically have a background. Normally I paint with very large brushes. I don't like smaller brushes, but I tend to work at home on small studies, so I have smaller brushes at home. So I'm able to play with this. Notice I'm constantly spraying it with the water so that I can keep the paint moving. All right, so, you know, what are the lightest points? I'm going to go ahead, well, actually, we're going to go with a little lighter green. And, you know, your hue is going to be, I don't know if you can see what I'm mixing, but I'm going to look for these lightest areas. Oh boy, I think I need to go a whole lot lighter here. That was much darker than I thought. I don't have Kevin's picture, so that's going to make it kind of hard for me to estimate the color here. But I'm just going to go ahead and guess that this is a straight on photograph with the light straight on. Now his hair is sort of a brown, so I could go with, let's see, bring that out a bit more so that his hair will stand out just a little bit. Just get something down. And the likelihood is that the light, if it's coming from up here, is going to kind of hit the top of his hair, so we'll have more chroma, so more of the yellow for sure. I don't know, with all of our masks, I don't know what the sideburns look like, but I'll go ahead and put something in there just to get that down. The hair is not going to have that much chroma, so I'm going to get some black in there. Okay, so now we're going to move through this. Let me spray this again. Let's see, so I think I need a whole lot more of the yellow up on top of the nose. So this is going to be brighter. So I'm going to give him a bright area here. And this is even brighter than I have it. So I'm going to go a little brighter there. And then this area at the top of his head curves around and it comes down on the sides if you follow his planes. And everybody's painting these differently. Paulina was doing sort of a color block with a very interesting breakdown of the colors as they almost puddle around the face. And there is no wrong way. You can do this however you like. There's a bit of a darkening here, and certainly darkening around the eyes. And then as you go back, this area is receding, so that's going to be darker back here. Going this way, it's going to be a little darker under on the sides of the face, but we're still going to try to have that stand out a bit from the background. And then the top of the ear is a really, really bright area. So we're going to give that high chroma for the green and a little white in there. And then this eyelid, I think probably would have a little more light right in here and here. And then let's see, his eyebrows are going to be darker, the color of the hair kind of, so we'll come in. We don't want to confuse the shadow. So we're going to want to go a little darker in here where the eye goes in, and this sort of curves around under the eyebrow. Then, like I've said, these are quick, you know, you've got to move fairly quickly because you're working with acrylics, but you can keep spraying them, even the painting, to keep that paint moist. And now I'm going to go under the nose. This is a plane up here and around the side, and inside the nose is going to be pretty dark. So we're going to darken that area, and I'm going to have a little problem because I've got puddles of water here, but we've got sort of a shadow area here. And then I'm going to wipe some of this paint off because I don't like the color I'm working with. I want to go with a lighter color again. So I'm going to give this a little more chroma. And I'll tone it down just a little since it's going off to the side. I'm going to bring. All right, I've lost my form a little bit, but and then we're going to go darker down the sides again as it meets the hairline. Boy, this is interesting working with the green. So let's brighten up these areas over the eyes. And notice how the white flattens it, so I'm going to need to add more of the yellow green in, because you don't want it flat. You have to be careful not to add too much of the white, but you've got to have it in there so that you can accentuate the brightness, but it can really dull the painting too. So I have little puddles of color up here on my sheet so that I can be working around towards the lighter and the darker colors. Okay, I'm going to try to bring this side down a little darker. It didn't go as dark as I had hoped it would. And then there's an angle going this way that has probably a little more light coming off the eyes. It's looking a little bit frightening there, isn't it? But you can see that a painting changes dramatically as you work your way through it. I'm actually going to do some really light green almost white back there. I don't know what color the eyes should be, but let's just say that they're sort of a medium green, but we know that I'm going to wash that white out of there. Actually, I could go in with a smaller brush, and let's go ahead and just get the pupils in there. Now remember, you're going to have a reflection in the eye somewhere, and so if you let that dry, you can come back in and work with it. And then, okay, so let's look at the bottom lip. This part is going to be brightest out on the edge, and then a little darker underneath. And then it's going to be quite a bit darker inside. So I'm going to go with that really dark green. And remember that the mouth comes out to about where the pupils are. And I think that we'll have a little shadow in where the mouth is. And under the nose, there's usually a dark area, but then it gets lighter. And there's a reflective light that might go up under there. But also you have sort of a dark area under the lid. And then we're going to bring the lids out a little bit because they tend to capture the light. And then this area underneath the eye. Okay. And then let's go for a color for these eyes, just to give them something. Because they look kind of spooky as they are. Okay, and then this whole area right here is actually going to be a whole lot lighter than I have it. I'm not sticking with the planer, am I? I'm noticing that I'm falling way off of the planer look, but I'm trying to bring out the brightness. Let me go darker as we come down. Okay. Now, so we've got this light area under the eye, but it gets darker as you come under. And then under the lip, let's see this lower lip is going to be a lot brighter. And then we're going to have a darker section under this lip that's going to come like down here. And then we're going to have a brighter area coming off the chin, sort of like this way. And I'll have to blend that a little bit to make sense of it. And then we've got sort of a mid-tone on the sides, so. And going underneath the chin, we get a good bit darker because we've got this shadow under a neck. Let me just wet this a little bit. Okay. I think I'm going to go a whole lot whiter on the ears, the tops, and a whole lot whiter coming down the nose. I think I'm going to go whiter here. Give that a little bit more form. Okay. I was afraid of my white, and I could have gone a lot darker. I mean, a lot lighter than I did. Okay, so this nostril is going to curve around. I don't have a, like I said, it's a little bit hard without a photograph, and I've lost my base drawing, but I think we can figure this out. Okay, it's building. We're getting there. Okay, so we're going to have some lightness in the cheeks. Coming down off the nose. Okay. Yeah, and whenever you're painting, it's a give and a take. You know, you're pushing and pulling paint around a form. You're sort of looking at the overall form and seeing if it's taking depth, and you know, working your way through the whole piece. Let's darken these ears. They're kind of bothering me because they stand out as being just this white space. So let's go in and give them a little form. And I'm going to say that this, oops, I didn't have white enough in there. Get some more white. This earlobe is probably going to have a little light on it. Okay, so now let's go a little darker.
Yeah. You want to go try it out?
Inside the ear.
Sure.
And I need to go darker here again. Okay, do you see it starting to take form now? Okay, let's see here. This lip. I'm going to go a little darker just under the nose because there's a cast shadow usually underneath. Now, I think that that lip is actually going to be fairly dark. So we're going to take the lower part of that lip and make it pretty dark. Okay. I'm working from home. You probably can hear the piano going. My husband, I traded a piano for paintings, and my husband and I decided to start playing the piano again. And I did this like 4 years ago, so of course my piano has been sitting there waiting for someone to play it for all these years, and we're finally doing it, and it's not in tune. And so my husband's actually getting good enough that he noticed that it wasn't in tune, and he brought somebody out here to tune it. So, okay, here we go. We're finally starting to see the face taking form. Okay, let's give Kevin some eyebrows. I've run out of my dark paint again. So I'm having to mix just another puddle of that. I've lost the shape, so I have no idea what we're working with. So I apologize to you, Kevin, if this doesn't look like you in the end. But remember that the eye goes down. You've got all these planes that you're working with. This nose is darker on the side. And it's going to work out from there. And then there's a plane going down this way. And then, let's see here. I'm constantly washing and wiping my brush. Okay, I think that this would probably be highlighted right here. And just above the lip, there's just sort of a... It's going to be very gradual though, so I'm going to need to blend that in. I've probably gone a little on the dark side on this lower lip. There'd be more of a gradation there. So I can mix the color as a puddle, or I can try to blend it in, which is really not what I recommend. So I'm going to go back and mix some more there. Okay, I went too far down, so I have to push the lip back up. And I still think that this would be lighter. And then this would have a transition to it. And let's see here, let's get a little more lightness under these eyes. There we go, that's a better color. And then a lightness here, maybe a little more white in that. There we go. Okay, now let's get down into this chin area. I'm a little dark there, so let's add more yellow, a little more white. Let's give him just a little less shadow on the sides. And this over here is going to be darker, so let's darken that up again. It's actually almost going to fade into the background, so you kind of want the same value there. And let's see here, this nose needs to take shape. Okay, now I want to have brightness going up the nose. So I'm still trying to get this as bright as it would be. There, that's coming to life. There we go. All right, so the nose curls around and then gets darker again underneath. And then the chin. I may have gone a little too dark there. See how I'm just constantly working it, trying to figure out where can I angle this and get the most highlight. You know, there's definitely this highlight on the lip that I've missed, so I'm going to want to go in with a really, really light green. And that lower lip tends to come down and then go up. See how that works?
Yes, sir.
And then make sure that the chin has a highlight. And then this dark area under the lip sort of comes in. I may have given him a little too much, gave you too much lip. Okay, so let's finish this off and start seeing the shape. Now I feel like I'm going to have a bit of light coming sort of off the chin here where this lip comes out. And then it'll get lighter as it's down here. Oh, get my dark area back. Okay. Add a little more dark in there.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you next year.
All right, absolutely. Well, happy Thanksgiving to you. And
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and underneath the eyes, there was a little bit of darkness,
Okay, thank you so much.
just where that plane changes.
I'm glad it wasn't that bad off to repair or get working well, but it sounds so.
Oh, shoot. Let's see here. These ears are brighter. You probably have a tiny bit more chroma up there. And the base of the ear down here. And then, okay, let's see, where am I? I think I can still go a little lighter with this area under the eye. Whoops. A little too light, huh? Okay, see how that's building up very gradually. I'm adding more paint, working it up. The hair is bugging me a bit, so I'm gonna go, whoops, I went too far. Like in the very back, it's gonna be darker. But I went a little too dark with it, so I'm gonna bring a little more color back in. And you know, underneath the hairline, there's usually this just keep moving your paint. And you'd probably have just a little lightness here. But still that hair, because I've got the dark background, is gonna fade into the background. Okay, so now we need to get back to the neck area, see what we can do there. Mix up a new sort of dark tone that goes under the neck. You know, and I just noticed I probably didn't give him enough of a neck. So we're gonna fix that, remedy that. This would come out. Let's make that background color again, which was a little white. I think I need more yellow in it. Okay, so we're gonna try to close up the gap there. I think it's probably a little bluer than I have it, but I definitely have white in there. Okay, I'm starting to run out of space on the table. Okay, so I haven't really worked with this chin at all, and it's looking pretty funky because I've ignored it. So let's get underneath here and give him a shadow. This is where, you know, the chin has a fairly hard edge, and you're going to have almost this dark black, darkish shadow just right under there, giving that definition. And then you pull the paint down to blend it. got a funny glare coming in through the window, and it's really hard to see what I'm doing. Okay, so let's say he's wearing a sort of a gray shirt. So let's think about, what's his shirt color going to be? Let's go with a really pale gray tone up to the green. And that's going to curl up and around the neck, right? We can just keep adding white to this. And we could go a lot less yellow in his face if we wanted to, but it kind of makes it stand out. And I'm just going really white with the shirt, so that everything's drying out. Gotta dampen everything again. I'll have to go back into that eye too. But out here in the edge, we've got some planes happening that we can use to give this shape, but we keep it sort of on the darker green tone. So that's going to push the form of the face back because it's not as bright. So you can see how color and chroma will aid in getting you the dimensions that you're looking for. Okay. So it's sort of dark up underneath here. Coming in. So that's pushing the sides of the face back, and then we can use this brighter chroma to keep brightening this area up. And bring out that part of the face. So not quite sticking to the planar formula, but I think you're getting the general gist of this. And I could just keep going and going and trying to perfect it, but that's not really I don't want to bore you guys to tears by watching me paint this, but you've got sort of a plane on the side of the head here that brings this form around. So if I can think in terms of, okay, how does this come out? It's going to be darker than this section here, so I want to go just slightly darker, but I'm still going to give it some dimension. Okay, I've lost the eyebrows again, but we can certainly go back in and sort of paint those back in there. And then the neck is actually going to have a brightness right down in here, sort of a reflective light. And this curves around, so you want to get this feeling of the neck curving. And so it's got a little bit of a highlight to it as it curves around. And then we can sort of get back to this shirt, finish that up. Oops, I got too much yellow on my brush. Okay, so what we've got going here is we need to get lighter on the neck down at this point as the neck curves down. Okay, that was too much water. and I have no idea without any picture at all where I'm going with this, and I'm needing to look at this because I can't see it from, I almost never paint flat. It's a very difficult perspective, and then I'm trying to, here, I'll turn it back up for you guys in a second, but it's really hard to get the perspective right when you're looking down on your work. And so I stand at an easel most of the time. There, I can put it back down for a minute. Okay, because I find that I can't read it properly if it's laying flat on a table. But in school, we don't have a choice, so this is how it has to work. Okay, so underneath the collar, and then there's going to be this little dark section where that goes in. Okay, let's go back to the eyes. I've kind of ignored them. So I'm going to use a smaller brush just to get back up in there. And let's see. The one thing that I pointed out to Kevin in class was that his irises they're not round because they go underneath the lids. Okay, so you really want to keep that in consideration. Also, there is a darker, I mean, you just constantly have to play with your, with the shadows. There's a shadow under this lid that gives this eyelid shape. Then you also have a darkness inside, oops, paint's drying out, inside there that's going to give this whole eye some definition. So these are just little finishing touches that you would do. And this eyelid sort of comes down over generally. Again, remember, I'm not looking at anything. I'm kind of doing some guesswork here. But I'm able to give this a little more dimension by going up underneath the eyelid. And this eyelid, comes out, and there's a shadow that curves around to the side of the head. So, I mean, I'm going into a lot more detail than you guys are going to need to. It's just a matter of how much you want to put in there. Okay, now I'm just going to come back under here and look at the highlights and say, okay, this part, that lip would probably curve out. This nose would be really brighter here. The eyebrow, and up above this eyebrow, he might have a bit of a light area. Okay, and then, this part of the ear might pop out a little bit. So just keep looking for where you might have a brighter area. That eyelid needs to go a little lighter. So let's see here. We come, thinking this is going to go up into the, and then come down this way. Okay. So hopefully you're beginning to see some shape and form in this portrait. I can keep going and going until I have it where I really feel it needs to be. But oh, I forgot about the highlight on the iris, because that's what makes this very believable. I still want to darken this area because technically it wouldn't be this white. You've got a shadow under. Okay, I haven't really done much work on the nose either, so let's go back and just take a look at the nose for a minute. Let's see here. It's going to be darker underneath there. And then he's going to have sort of a darker shadow coming underneath. This probably doesn't look anything like you, but it's all I can do without a photo. Okay, see how I'm shaping that? Almost like I'm working with clay. I have a feeling the nostrils are too narrow, so I'm trying to think, okay, how can I give that a little more emphasis and bring it out there? And then there is going to be this recession that goes down into this area, and there's this area coming up off the nose that gets darker. Okay, I've got some little white spots that I need to clean up in here just to correct, because this isn't going to have any complete white. I've made that eyelid a little funky, so I'm going to come back in with some darker paint. And now I've gone a little too dark on that, and I'm wanting to pull that out. Okay, so I've lost this eyelid, and I want to come back in and see what I can do to give more of a believable eyelid. So I'm going to reshape that just slightly. Same thing here. It might even be a little whiter, a little more tone in there to bring that out. Okay, those eyes are just really looking a little too dark to me, so they're not going to be this white, but let's see what I can do just by adding white in there. Okay, that's more believable to me, so let's see here. And then you just notice this ear would probably have, paints are drying. I kind of left the shirt unfinished, but mix up some more colors so that I can finish the shirt. I used a lot of white on it, so, oh no, way too blue. Okay, so as the shoulder goes back, it's going to get a little darker back in here because that's receding, right? So you're going to want to bring this lighter in the front, because this is right at the foreground, right? Okay, and then if you really want to brighten up some of this area, yikes, I should have put, here we go. You can come back in and hit it just a little harder Same thing here. And now you can really look for those planes that we were talking about before. And notice how I'm doing, I'm not doing like a solid line. I'm giving it just taps of color to bring out this lower lid just a little bit. And it's okay that it breaks because it gives it a little bit of that implied line. I keep losing this line in the eye. There. Now that's starting to come alive. And then inside there. Okay, I think I have this iris off. It's going to be more up this way. And I notice that this iris is curving in a little too much. Now there's going to be a highlight somewhere in there, and I'm also noticing that this part of the lip probably has more highlight to it. Inside the lip, it's probably angled up. There's some, I'm standing up now because I simply can't do this. I apologize, I just knocked the whole thing. So down underneath his lip, he's going to have a shadow. Same thing on this side. It's got a funky reflection. I just noticed looking through the camera. That's actually water. Okay, I've got yikes. Nope, I messed that up. So now I've got to go back and repair. There. And there's this sort of brightness just above the lip sometimes that can help. I feel like those nostrils are just way too black, but I'm gonna have to mix more green, go back in. Okay. You can see how one stroke can completely change what you're doing. I can't tell you how hard this is to do without a reference picture. So I'm basically now working straight out of my head. And I keep feeling like this is all way too thick on the lower lip. All right, that's working better. And in here, I feel like I've just got to get a little more angle to the shadow. And then there's a really little tiny bit of chroma, usually just right above the lip. And now that I'm looking at this, it just looks really yellow, yellow-green. So I'm gonna try to bring that out just a little bit more. I had dark loaded on the back side of that brush. Okay. Normally I don't use an angled brush, but that's what I had sitting here, and I don't really have the right shape brushes that I want to be working with, so I am struggling just a little bit with getting what I'm trying for, which is there. All right, so at any rate, I think you get the idea that I'm at the point now where I probably should just stop. But I think you get the idea of what, what a monotone looks like. I might have gone a little bit dark on it, but that's just really quick, and that's the idea of where we're trying to go with this. I hope that helps to see. Okay, have a good day and good luck with your paintings.